Hello internet, my name is Lave and I watched Dr. Sleep, which is written and directed by Mike Flanagan, who's got the unenviable task of not only adapting a Stephen King novel of the same name, but he's also got to make it a sequel to what I consider to be the greatest ever haunted house movie, Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, which of course he made a load of changes to and Stephen King hated it, so Mike Flanagan has to find a way of pleasing both sets of fans. Not an easy task. So this one picks up after the events of the film The Shining, with a grown-up Danny still traumatised by the events that went down at the Overlook Hotel. He's now struggling with alcoholism and tries to suppress his supernatural gifts, but then he meets a young girl with similar abilities and has to protect her from a strange cult who consume their powers to stay young. So yeah, this one is much more of an exploration of this power, the shining, this magic, or the shine as they call it in this film. And we meet various people with this power at varying levels. So you've got your lower level people who don't even realise that they've got a bit of shine to them. Then you've got your top tier people who are cursed by it and struggle with it, and some even keep it a secret from their friends and families, which really made me think of the X-Men films. I mean, they're basically mutants, and the majority of this film, where it spends most of its time, where it goes into new territory, in terms of its tone and feel, it really did make me think of the X-Men films. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. In fact, I found myself rather enjoying it. Once I got past Ewan McGregor's dodgy American accent, I actually felt sympathetic for his grown-up Danny Torrance trying to find his place in the world. He has a satisfying character arc and a good relationship with Abra, becoming a mentor and protector to her, played really well by Kyliegh Curran. Once again, that's kind of X-Men-y. He's like the damaged Charles Xavier to her Jean Grey, and her shine is the shiniest of the shine. She's a very powerful shiner, and that puts her on the radar of this cult called the True Knot, led by Rebecca Ferguson's character Rose the Hat, who is possibly the sexiest villain I think I've ever seen, and it's pretty clear that she relished playing this character. Her gang are basically vampire gypsies travelling around in RVs and camper vans, either turning their victims to make them join their cause or inhaling their power as opposed to sucking their blood to maintain their youthful looks. And in true Stephen King style, the kids are not safe in this movie. Much like the It remake recently, you do see kids get murdered pretty brutally, but as far as the whole kind of sucking their shine out of them, I did find it a bit corny. There was just something very funny about seeing these actors smell the air like they're smelling a fart, but they enjoy it. It's like, oh yeah, that's some good shine. But for a 2 hour and 30 minute film, it's paced quite well as it bounces between Danny and Abra's story and the True Knot cult as they hone in on their next target, with some impressive visuals depicting how their powers work, with a lot of it taking place in their minds via psychic connections, which again made me think of other films and TV shows with similar concepts. Like you've got Sherlock's Mind Palace thing, where they actually go into their minds and it's populated with filing cabinets with their thoughts. There's even some Inception style gravity-defying set pieces, which, to be fair, did look like it's been filmed practically. There is a lot of CG visual effects in there as well, nothing you haven't really seen before, apart from one dream flying sequence, which I really appreciated from an artistic point of view. But in terms of other references, there's other little things that made me think of other films, like Ewan McGregor's character at one moment is working in a hospital and he eases the passing of dying patients in much the same way as Brad Pitt's character in Meet Joe Black, except without the Caribbean accent. And I think they even reference one of Ewan McGregor's early films called Shallow Grave. But perhaps the most interesting thing that this film does creatively when compared to other modern day films is the fact that they haven't attempted to digitally recreate any previous characters from the previous film. Some of the characters do pop up, but instead they've just recast them. And for the most part, I thought it worked really well. On some occasions, not so much. But then when you think about it, there's some pretty big shoes to fill there. And as a fan of the Kubrick film, I was not expecting this to fill those shoes, even when it recreates those iconic scenes in terms of the sets and the way it's filmed with crossfades and zoom shots and that iconic music. which has been expertly reproduced, so I really didn't mind the callbacks to Kubrick's film. But ultimately, I think if you were to take all of that stuff out of it, the story, the characters are still engaging enough. It wasn't scary, like I wasn't scared for 1 minute in the film. There were a few creepy images and all that, but it really isn't a horror film in my mind. But surprisingly, I was still engaged with it. So that's my thoughts on Dr. Sleep, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. I think Mike Flanagan has done a good job narratively bringing the work of Kubrick and King closer together. From what I understand, I haven't read The Shining or Dr. Sleep, but the information that I do know, I had to look up online. I do get the differences between The Shining, the film, and The Shining, the book. And in terms of this story, it kind of all makes sense and fits together, even if it is a bit predictable. I don't think this film is a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think it should be overlooked either. But let me know what you thought if you've seen it down below. And as always, thanks very much for checking out this review. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give it a like, and don't forget to share the lave. Here's Lavey.